everyone once again. I greeted many of you with a hug at the door. Can you hear me well up there? For those I didn't hug at the entrance, he'll be happy to hug you at the exit. I'm available, and it's a pleasure to be with you. It's been a while since I last came to Manaus. I remember that the last time I was here, I gave a lecture in front of the Amazonas Theater. Right there in the middle of the square, it was a unique and very meaningful experience. And today, I hope to be able to share with you. This is a brand new lecture. It was created specifically for us to reflect together in this first talk of the year. Perhaps some of you have never attended a philosophy lecture in the new Acropolis method. It's a very practical, experiential philosophy as the art of living. And perhaps today's topic is the most important of all. It is what lies behind everything, our inner life. There's no use in memorizing recommendations if there isn't something within you that chews on them. That digests, understands, and assimilates that information. If it's merely, let's say, rote memorization, it won't have much impact. There's an expression that, the first time I heard it, seemed a bit meaningless to me. Today, I believe that expression makes perfect sense. We're having some issues with the microphone. Hello, sorry about that. The expression goes like this: the more inward, the more outward. Does that make sense to you? The more inner life you have, the more effective you are in the outer life. If you are in touch with yourself, you will be fully present body and soul in every situation in life. And there is a promise, as the biblical tradition says, that all else will be given unto you as well. Perhaps this is the most important element, that human beings are not hollow inside. That they have an inner dialogue, that they are in touch with themselves. That they are connected to their own consciences. If they are in the presence of their own consciences, they will be ethical. They're honest, they're of integrity. If they are empty, they depend on someone else to keep watch over them. And no one will ever be watched that well. It becomes an imposition, a coercion. If you're not being watched by your own conscience, forget it. In vain does the watchman keep watches, the biblical tradition says. There is nothing and no one that can force a person to become something from the outside in. We are not trainable like animals. Inner life, I believe this is the central topic from which all others flow. Small lessons to develop the inner life. I'm not going to talk about Eastern or Western treatises. I'm going to talk about practical, small, simple things. Very applicable, things that everyone can use. And I'll say one more thing. The best lessons, once you get the hang of it, will be the ones you create yourself. It's just like a student of oratory. I come in and say, stand at the center of the stage, which wouldn't work here, because standing in the center would block the screen. So, here you have to adapt. Make these gestures, but for him, it doesn't feel natural. No one becomes a good speaker by imitating someone else. You can start that way, but eventually you find your own style, your own way. So, this is just a push, so that with these small formulas, you can discover your own. Who really knows what elevates a human being's consciousness? What I do know is that it's not just one thing. For example, arguing with someone doesn't elevate consciousness. Losing your patience doesn't elevate consciousness. But sometimes, for some people, working in the garden is more effective than, I don't know, listening to classical music. Each person has their own formula, and there are no ready-made recipes for that. But getting the hang of it, we can start doing today. We can go over the basic instructions, what it is, and how it's done. Can share that. This first quote comes from the Taoist tradition, from Lao Tzu. He used to say something very interesting. What do you see when you look into the eyes of a wise person? Of course, none of us here expects to become a sage overnight. Even though that would be highly desirable, but it's not possible. Wisdom is the pinnacle of human evolution. In fact, that's the ABC of philosophy. We came into this world to move from ignorance to wisdom, and for that, we must love wisdom. Philosophus, love of wisdom. And the philosophy courses, the schools of philosophy that have existed throughout history, were meant to help guide that love for wisdom. to create a real relationship between you and wisdom. So that's the foundation, the ADC of philosophy. And Lao Tzu used to say that when you look into the eyes of a wise person, it's like a corridor, and at the end of it, there is an intimate and profound dialogue. A dialogue between a human being and a god. Your own inner god. In the eyes of a wise person, you look and there is a deep passage within it, a mystery, unfolding right now. There is a dialogue between a human being and a god. Something divine that dwells within the human being is being heard, is being seen, is being consulted. There is nothing more difficult than when you look at someone and they're not even listening to you. They're on the surface of the eyes, turned outward slightly. And they keep running away from themselves. They're the kind of person, for example, for whom it's very difficult to explain how to organize time. Because they know that if they have any time left over, they'll have to face themselves, and they don't want to. Many people I teach don't organize their time because they're afraid of having extra time and having to come face to face with themselves, because they're afraid facing themselves is painful. So they spend their lives running from themselves. They stay on the surface, turned outward. It's very difficult for a society made up of superficial people to become ethical. Only if it's out of fear, only if they're trained like animals. Or out of desire for rewards. That's not something that lasts, that can be sustained. If you want to transform the world, transform human beings into true human beings. Place human beings in the company of themselves. Remember this well. If you want to transform the world, place human beings in the company of themselves. Otherwise, it won't work. There are no magic formulas. There's no other way. This next phrase, some attribute it to Plato, others to the Chinese Eastern tradition. In any case, there are different versions of this phrase. Either way, it's very thought-provoking. It says the following: the mediocre often talk about people, the average talk about events, and the wise talk about ideas. In Brasilia, there's a park. I noticed that here, you're beating us 10-0 when it comes to parks. Just today, I visited a beautiful one. If you try walking through a park where many people are sitting, having picnics, talking with one another, I love doing this kind of experiment. Philosopher's madness. Just watching what people are talking about. I'd bet all my trading cards with you that most of them are talking about someone. Oh, did you see what so-and-so did? Unbelievable. But look, I warned her. No, but did you see what that other person did? Most of them are talking about people. I often joke and say that the most important person in the world is the one who's not there. Because if everyone is present, who are people going to talk about? There has to be someone who didn't show up, otherwise the conversation ends quickly. The absent one is absolutely essential. Most people talk about other people. Others talk about things. And a small minority, do you often find, let's speak very secretly among us? People talking about the meaning of life? About beauty, honesty, dignity? About human kindness? Is it common for you to see people talking about that? This refined interest in eternal things belongs to the wise. Well, the philosopher leans toward wisdom. They should occasionally pass through that path. That moment when you walk that path is your moment of inner life. It's when you lift your consciousness upward. It's nothing out of this world. It can be done. Some very simple techniques, which in the past were common, everyone knew them. They were part of many cultures of the past. Well, but to discuss ideas, you need to have ideas. Otherwise, what are you going to talk about? Oh, I think this about kindness. What do you think? And kindness? I haven't really thought about that. Let me see if I've read anything on the subject. It becomes difficult to establish a dialogue that way. So first, you need to have ideas in order to be able to discuss them. You need to dedicate some time to an inner workshop. This inner workshop is your inner life. It's what Plato called the divine leisure. A dialogue with oneself. There's a little story that if someone, just to quickly check here, how many of you have seen a lecture by one of the new Acropolis speakers on YouTube? Quite a few people. For those who haven't seen it, I invite you to check out the channel. There's a short and very interesting preview of one of my lectures, one of my favorites, featuring one of the examples I like the most. For those who haven't seen it, you'll find it the reads called The Theft. It tells the story of a Zen monastery. In this very old monastery, one day the disciples came to the master and said the monastery was falling apart and it needed to be renovated. The master decided to take this opportunity to put them to the test. I'm going to challenge these boys. He'll put them through a trial. The disciples came to the master and said, "Master, you've seen that the monastery is very old. It's centuries old, and it's falling down on us. We need to renovate it, but we are mendicant monks, we have nothing. How are we to renovate this monastery? Masters can be tricky. At least in the stories we hear, they're always putting you through tests. Always. Don't let your guard down. They test you." Then the master looked at them and said, "It's true. We really don't have any money. I've got an idea. Do you know what you're going to do? Go to the nearest town, to the village, and steal." "What? What do you mean, master?" "That's right, steal. Take everything you can carry. But there's one condition. Don't let anyone see you. Quietly." Do you know why? This monastery's reputation is centuries old. People will speak ill of us. So steal, but only if no one sees you doing it. No one can catch you in the act. They were caught in an existential conflict. To keep the story short, should we go? Go! Master ordered, do it. Meanwhile, as the master returned to the monastery, there was a young man who had stayed behind. He was going about his usual tasks, as always. Then the master asked him, "But my dear, what are you doing here?" "Well, master, what do you mean I'm doing here? I'm obeying you, doing exactly what you told me to do." "No, wait a minute, what do you mean you're doing what I told you to do?" "All your friends went to the city to steal." "Yeah, but you didn't say that. You said we should only steal if no one was watching. And I'm always watching myself. There is life within me, something that deserves respect and dignity. There is something inside me that is constantly watching me. I am not hollow. I am not something made just for show." At that time, they didn't know the English, never mind that. "I'm not something made just for show, I'm being seen from within. I know myself, I know who I am." This person had an inner life. He passed the test, the only one. So this idea, which Plato Coletto, you know what? Divine leisure. Then everyone thinks, yay, leisure means doing nothing. But he says, it's the time when we do the most. It's that moment in the day when you pause to have a dialogue with yourself. You schedule a meeting with your own soul to reflect on what you've done with your day. My life's purpose is to go there, toward that red curtain. Did I move in that direction today? No, I stood still. No, I even took a step in the opposite direction. What was it that pulled me away from the direction of my life's purpose? So that tomorrow I can be prepared. Because it might happen that I drift so far away, there comes a time I can no longer find my way back. What was it that pulled me away from my path? That took me out of alignment with myself? Why did I betray myself today? Or, why did I do nothing? Or, I took a step in the right direction. Great. How did I manage to do that? To extract the essence of life, so that you don't leave this world empty-handed. Imagine orange juice, a very simple example, but it works. Orange juice is good for your health. It has vitamin C and helps prevent the flu. Especially here in Manaus, we use air conditioning all the time, Iona. Isn't that right? Orange juice. But do you know what you're supposed to do with orange juice? You squeeze it, get the juice out of the orange, drink it, and throw away the peels. What do we do with life's experiences? We keep all the peels, the bitterness, the weight, the price we paid for them. We don't drink the juice, and we go around carrying only the peels. Isn't that how it is? We say, oh, I went through this, I went through that. But what did you learn from it? Nothing. So you didn't drink the juice. You're dragging around a sack full of orange pulp. You didn't drink the juice. It's like arguing over the price of a product, paying for it, and then leaving it on the counter. You spend your whole life complaining about the price you paid, but you never took the product with you. You didn't learn anything from life. Inner life is that place where you store the essence of the orange and leave the peels behind. There's even a little samba about that, right? Throw the peels away. That's it, leave the peels behind. I really enjoy talking about a book. It's a bit discouraging, difficult. But every now and then, it's good. It gives us a good shake. It's the Tibetan Book of the Dead. It says that sometimes we drag so much weight through life that this weight keeps us from taking a step, keeps us from growing. Then it says, and this is the hardest part of the story, that in that moment, we choose to die, because there is no meaning to life without the possibility of growth. We choose, and life carries it out. From so much weight we drag along, we can no longer take a single step. There's no way to grow anymore. I think that's powerful, and good for giving us a jolt when we become too inert and have forgotten the meaning behind all of this. So that's the idea. Thank you. This is the idea of the inner life. Jostian Gardner and the construction of the human being. Jostian Gardner, this author with the unusual name, wrote a book that became very popular, and it's a good book called Sophie's World. Many people were introduced to philosophy through this book. There's a passage right at the beginning where he asks us to imagine that you've shaped a little clay figure, breathed life into it, and it starts walking, and this little figure doesn't even look back. It just starts asking, what am I going to wear? Where am I going to live? How much will I earn per month? It doesn't know what it's going to do, but it wants to know how much ITLL make. Isn't that right? And blah, blah, blah. At no point does the little figure even think to look at you and ask, why did you create me? What did you expect from me? What is the meaning of my presence in the world? He says, look, we would say, this figure has gone mad. Manufacturing defect. Let me make another one. That's more or less what we do. We ask about everything except what truly matters. Except about what is real. This kind of question, asked of oneself, is the trigger for inner life. It is the question each person must ask themselves in the silence of their daily space of divine leisure. In Rome, it was said, this word is not Greek, it's Latin. Odium and negotium. Negotium was the time devoted to the body, odium the time devoted to the soul. If we analyze what they called odium and negotium, I think we do neither. We use the body to give ourselves pleasure, but to treat it as it deserves. Not even negotium do we practice. Neither odium nor negotium. Odium was to do that which belongs to the soul, whereas negotium was to do that which belongs to the body. So Plato's divine leisure was a moment of inner life. Values, identity, discernment.
These are things we could say no longer exist in today's world.
I always talk about this in our philosophy course, which is the foundation of all the lectures we give. That today we constantly complain about the lack of honesty, kindness, altruism. We complain about the lack of ability to make good choices. For example, choosing a positive, constructive meaning for life. A good career choice, healthy relationships, that's a lack of discernment. And a lack of identity. Who are you? Do you realize that these three things are born from inner life? Where would be the workshop to build these things? I usually explain it in our philosophy course like this. These examples are quite well known. If the meaning of my life is the door, I can say that now I'm aligned, right? Now I'm off track. Right, wrong, true, false, good, bad. These only exist from the moment you know where you're going. If I don't want to go anywhere, am I right or wrong? I don't know. How could I possibly know that? Knowing where you're going, your sense of purpose is the first product of inner life. It's about establishing, within yourself, a final goal for all of this. When life comes to an end, what do I want to have become? What do I want to have done for others? What do I want to have done for myself? What do I want to have done for the world? What small difference, however modest, do I want to have made? What trace do I want to leave behind? Obviously, this is born in that workshop we call inner life. In other words, how can there be values in a world where no one wants to go anywhere? People want to have, not to be. They simply want to accumulate things. The great men were great because they gave so much, not because they have so much. In truth, we don't truly own a single thing. That might sound like a cliche, but stop and think, does it make perfect sense? Imagine a piece of land, and someone says, "This land is mine." How old is that land? If it could speak, it would say, "Oh ho ho, my dear, I'm the one who owns you. Soon enough, it'll swallow you whole. You are but a breath. Who are you to say you own me?" Do we even have enough time in life to truly own anything? Sometimes, not even ourselves. And the most sad part. So, we end up living for an illusion, without establishing a greater purpose in life. When I teach time planning courses, people often get a bit upset. The first thing I ask them to do is to plan their life as a whole. Have a sense of purpose in life. Everyone is terrified of that. Terrified of living while knowing where they are heading. In such a way that they become responsible for every step they take. So, DISCRNME and knowing how to make choices another thing that arises from inner life. Why? Because we've already seen that values are born from inner life. Discernment, the ability to make good choices, depends on what you intend to do with things. I want to build a table. So, a saw is useful, plywood, nails. An umbrella isn't useful. Flippers aren't useful. Why not? Because you can't build a table with those. Now, if I don't want to build anything, then what's useful and what's not? How can you choose the good things in life if you don't want to do anything? If you don't want to build yourself, do you see how it won't work? All the time, this moment in your minds is like a great marketplace of ideas. From which you are choosing. Choosing based on what? What do you want to build?
In order to choose the good, appropriate, and useful ideas and to recognize what's just empty talk.
How will you develop discernment? Look, it's not that simple. It's not that simple. Let me tell you something, then spread it around. Just you and the folks on YouTube will know. This year, I'll complete 30 years with New Acropolis. Many students have come and gone. Many classes have passed through my hands, many lectures.
Many times people have said to me, "Have you seen such and such movie? Read such and such book? It's great."
Very well-intentioned people, truly good people. But when you actually looked into it, you realized that the book or movie sometimes by a trendy author was just playing with ideas that led nowhere. Sometimes people are impressed by a handful of pretty words. Why is that? Because they lack the ability to compare things to something meaningful. To discern what is just a passing trend and what holds real depth, real value. Whether it's a book, a movie, or anything else. How do you evaluate the opportunities that life offers you? Many of those books, those films that were recommended to me, were just commercial releases, full of catchy phrases, but they had nothing of substance. They had nothing at all. Sometimes even people with a solid intellectual and cultural background find themselves without the criteria to discern. Compare it to what? How am I supposed to know? And naturally, also lacking identity. Where does identity come from? Could it be that it's also connected to our inner life? Who are you? Whoa, what a complicated question. Who are you? There's an exercise I give in the philosophy course that's a bit more fun. I put Plato in a time machine and bring him here 2,400 years into the future. Plato calmly walks in, step by step, and arrives here. He picks up the microphone. He won't know what it is, but he picks it up anyway. And he asks you, who are you? What are you going to say to Plato? Tell me. I live on such and such street. I have this profession. He'll say, that's your address. What you do, that's not who you are. Then you pull out your ID, your social security number, your email, and hand all that to Plato. Are you just that pile of little papers? If you lose all that, then what are you left with? So, what now? How do we satisfy Plato? What is he expecting to hear from you? Do you know what it is? It's your sense of purpose in life. I'm a person whose purpose in life is to be a little more just, to be a little less selfish, a little more altruistic.
Ah, so you're someone who wants to go in that direction?
I see, Lucia is someone who wants to go in that direction. If he finds me heading in this direction, he'll say, Lucia, you're not yourself. In that moment, I'm not myself. I'm betraying who I am. So he knows if someone says they saw me stealing, he'll say that wasn't Lucia or she was out of her mind. Because Lucia is someone who wants to be honest. Your sense of purpose defines you. And where is this sense of purpose created? We've already said inner life. All of these elements are vital, my friends. What could be more important than this? Tell me, what could be more important than this? These are the vital elements, the references, the coordinates for living. There is a workshop where this is built, the inner life. For the superficial person, these things are defined by society. Parameters defined by society. And often they come from a collective we don't even know whom it serves or what it serves. And surely, if we knew, we wouldn't like it. What is all of this serving? So you see, these are fundamental elements. If, today, education were about formation, not just information, these things would necessarily be addressed somewhere. This was a very important contribution of philosophy in traditional societies. The construction, the formation, the discovery of life's fundamental coordinates. You always see in the newspaper someone offering a job, like looking for people with experience in computers, in construction. Then they hire someone with experience in that field.
But they don't bother to find out whether the person is honest, a person of integrity.
When he turns his back, he gets robbed.
Wouldn't it be easier to hire someone who is honest, has integrity, even if they lack experience?
And then teach them? Or enroll them in a 6-month course on integrity and honesty? If such a course existed, but it doesn't. This is something that arises from the inside out. We only concern ourselves with what comes from the outside in. And it doesn't work. Things don't work that way. Can you imagine someone asking for a person like that?
Wanted an honest and upright employee. No need for prior knowledge. He'll teach the rest.
That would be a truly intelligent citizen, I assure you. Intelliger means to know how to choose the best among the options life presents. Well, Nature's account. It's something I read some time ago. I tried to find that article again to bring it here. I couldn't find it. But I found that idea powerful. It was a statistic compiled by a certain institute, which stated the following. Let's say someone lived for 75 years. Have you ever stopped to think about how much that person costs nature? Let's assume they had an average level of consumption. How much do they cost nature? In terms of resources, just to stay alive for all that time. Water for nourishment, to produce their food. For hygiene. Land to grow their food, to build their home. Air that they breathe, that they consume, and often pollute. Fire to cook their meals, to light the places where they live. How much do they consume? How much has nature invested to keep a human being alive for 75 years? And what did that person give back to nature? So that it could become better in fulfilling its purposes? What did they contribute? Do you think many people bring profit to nature? Do they give back something greater than what they consume? Do they return to nature not only a better physical environment, purer air, more fertile soil, cleaner water, but also a better human nature, because human beings are also here to contribute with human values. In other words, who has cultivated human nature? Who has added to humanity? Because if, in addition to preserving the earth, I educate 10 people to preserve it, I have multiplied my ability to benefit nature. To educate, to shape, to make human beings better, that is the best investment we can make. Nature expects that from us. Only we can do that, to make human beings more human, even if it's just 2 or 3. When some of you write on YouTube, Facebook, look, I became a little better because of you. You can be sure of this, because I read everything that is sent to me. In that moment, I feel something. I could die right now. Peacefully, content, I've already done something. Isn't that right? I can sleep peacefully. If I made a moment in someone's life better, if I made someone reflect, to become more human, that's a gain. I've already added something. Take a moment to reflect. This equation is harsh, but everyone should be concerned about it. My equation. What I'm taking from nature and what I'm giving back to it. You can go ahead. And these things hold immense value. These things generate happiness. They create harmony, and no amount of money can buy that. A human being who makes a difference, a human being who adds value. If someone writes or says, "You were helpful to me, you helped me," do you think there's any amount of money that could buy something like that? Could an extremely wealthy person force someone to say that to them? That person's money might bring temporary relief, but it won't truly change anyone's life in a meaningful way. This holds immense value. Many would pay for happiness, for harmony, but it's priceless. No one can buy that. It has real value, the concept of discipline. You've probably heard that from a lecture. We retain only 5%. I like, based on that statistical data, to choose the 5% I want my students to take with them. I've already chosen. I want you to take with you this concept of discipline. Don't forget it. This is very important. This concept of discipline comes from Professor Delia Steinberg-Guzman, International Director of New Acropolis. She said the following: discipline is doing what is necessary to keep your consciousness elevated. A person whose consciousness is elevated, everything else will be added unto them. If they have to do something, they will be honest, they will be just, they will be loving. Because from that higher place, only human, only good things come forth. The challenge is to elevate our consciousness to a higher place, to do what is necessary to keep your consciousness elevated. Promise me you won't forget this? This is discipline. I need to work the soil in my garden, read a page from this text, like, I need to hug someone I love and tell them that I love them. I need to listen to that song. This is absolutely more important than anything else in life. It's more important than paying bills, more important than going to the supermarket. It's more important. It's better to pay a late fee on a bill than to go a day without doing these things, because that would be a day when you don't act in a human way. It's like that slip through your fingers. It's one less day in your life. It's not worth it. No one can pay for that. Our time here isn't that long. Multiply the days by 75, 80 years. You'll see that a single day is not insignificant. If we lived 1,000 years, maybe, but for those of us who live so little, one day is incredibly important. It's not worth it. It's better to be late on the bill. It's better to go a day without coffee at home. Discipline is doing what's necessary to keep your consciousness elevated. That's something extremely important to remember. Lost life technology. Some things that existed in the past. The beauty of the Sufi schools. Sufism, which was the essence of Islamic philosophy. They built their schools in such a way that wherever your eyes landed, it was an invitation to elevate your consciousness. Placing a flower in a vase, hanging a beautiful painting on the wall, thoroughly cleaning the house, laying down a well-swept rug, in such a way that whoever lays eyes on it feels purer, cleaner, more harmonious. Let everything be an invitation to elevate consciousness. Things must be beautiful so that our consciousness always has an ideal environment in which to rise. And so, we take it upon ourselves to go about beautifying life so that another person passing by may elevate their own consciousness, creating an ideal environment where noble ideas can flourish. Look at our society. At a poster, at a billboard. Sometimes it's an invitation to sensuality, to selfishness, to ambition. How rarely we are invited to elevate our consciousness, to create things of this nature for ourselves and for others. I brought feng shui into the picture. Are you familiar with it?
It is an art inherited from the East.
Of arranging your home, the walls, the colors. This is a fact. Any small thing you place in your home can be an invitation to raise or lower your consciousness, whether in the city or in the world. Whoever passes by that place feels a little better or worse. Beautify the world, even in dialogue, in the words you speak. When someone meets you on the street, do they walk away with a more elevated or a lower consciousness? If it's lower, it means you are subtracting from people's lives. At the end of your life, that might mean it would have been better if you had never existed. People might have been better off.
Have you ever thought that people might have been better
if they had never crossed paths with you? I think that's the harshest realization someone can come to.
There's also the story of the Roman protocols.
They were concerned with which direction the home faced, whether it was toward the sunrise or the sunset. The things that were spoken in the morning, meals shared together. There were protocols for communal life. Today, we no longer care about that. We think that sitting at a table to share a meal is just a habit, that it holds no real meaning. The high-tech society of the 21st century doesn't know, for example, that when you enter a house that was once inhabited by others, you must take care to purify it in the best way possible, to beautify it, because there is more there than just physical dirt. It is imbued with the state of mind of the people who once lived there. We no longer know any of this. We don't realize that when, for example, there is an accident or a loss in a family, the paterfamilias used to be concerned with as everyone in the family group are left with negative thoughts, and that can attract even more negativity. They were concerned with elevating the consciousness of the family group. They knew they possessed a life technology. Where are those things now? They understood that the act of cleaning the floor wasn't just a hygiene habit. It also cleanses from within. It also creates a state of mind. The colors used to paint a wall, a painting placed on the wall, the state of mind it evokes, will shape the day of the people who live there. They knew these things. Where is that knowledge now?
Today, everything is arbitrary. Everything is a matter of taste, but it's not just that.
If you eat poison food, whether you like it or not, you'll get sick and could even die.
And from a mental and emotional perspective, it's the same. Many things intoxicate and sometimes even kill.
They poison us from within. Haven't you ever had a terrible movie stuck in your memory? Just because there was nothing else to do? You carried those images in your mind, poisoning your memory for years?
It's not just the physical realm that works this way.
And we no longer know how to choose wisely. You can go ahead. The goal of having an inner life is to always become that which makes you more human. It's not just any direction. There aren't many choices. The choice is only one, to be. To be a better human being, kindness, justice, wisdom, beauty, integrity. Human values are the goal.
Plants aim to carry out photosynthesis.
Animals aim to survive and perpetuate the species. Human beings aim for values, virtues, and wisdom.
There aren't many goals. There's only one.
It is the peak of the pyramid toward which all sides converge. Otherwise, everything becomes arbitrary. The meaning of human life is to be human. What you may have or not have might be useful, but it's not what truly matters. What truly matters is to become more and more human. It is from that foundation that you will make your choices. Then come the means, the countless techniques that have already existed, and others that you can create yourselves, as I mentioned. You can go ahead. And now we'll finally get to the techniques themselves, since you're already running out of patience.
I keep talking, still haven't mentioned.
There are two very important moments, my friends. The moment you wake up and the moment you go to sleep. The moment you wake up sets the tone for your entire day. Did you know that? The first things you think about. The first sounds you hear. The first thing you look at. If you place a painting or a photograph of a violent act in front of someone's bed, you could end up triggering a kind of psychological disturbance in that person. If it remains there over the years. This magic of beginnings and endings, something we no longer truly understand. It's incredibly important. You have no idea how much of a difference it makes if you take that text A sentence, a paragraph, a prayer, something small.
Don't make it too long, or it won't work. Iona. But choose something that moves you deeply, that touches you, that elevates your awareness. Place it on your nightstand and read it every morning.
You have no idea how much of a difference that makes.
Or one of those little music players.
With the music that most uplifts your consciousness, press play in the morning and listen.
Spend 5 minutes on that. You have no idea how that transforms your state of mind.
How it helps you start the day on the right foot.
That's for the morning. And at night as well, it affects the quality of your sleep.
There are two states, waking consciousness and dream consciousness. The level at which you enter sleep is determined by your last thought.
Sometimes you have such a restless night.
Waking up more tired than when you went to bed, experience that? Thinking about problems before going to sleep, and everyone does it because they lack mental control.
Then you enter sleep in that same frequency and spend the whole night wrestling with your problems.
Young people studying for college entrance exams.
Didn't you ever wake up in the middle of the night thinking about the solution to a chemistry problem?
That used to happen to me.
I'd go to bed with a pile of notebooks, thinking, what on earth is the solution to this problem? Around 3 in the morning, I'd wake up with the answer.
And with insomnia too. In other words, there are things you should do and things you shouldn't. Keep the space where you sleep as clean as possible. Use softer colors, positive images. Have a good book by your side, some good music. Channel a good thought. Focus your mind on something meaningful. Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, a wonderful writer, suggests in one of her works something that I've actually done.
In fact, I need to start doing it again because it's really good.
Think about something that seems simple.
It looks extremely simple, but it's actually complex.
Do you know what it is? The moment you open your eyes in the morning, before you move to get your body out of bed. For 1 minute or even 30 seconds, think about God. Friends, you have no idea how powerful that is. Do you know why?
Because in practice, God is, in most cases, just a memorized concept. We don't know what it means to think about God. Is it just the word God? No, you'll have to visualize.
Visualize what exactly? A bearded figure wearing a robe floating on a cloud?
No, not that. That's far too simplistic.
So what then?
That's when it starts to get tricky, because you don't really know what it means to think about God.
It's a memorized phrase. What is God? Do you know what's going to happen?
First, you'll have a hard time getting out of bed. Second, throughout the day, you'll have to find ways to visualize things that inspire the idea of God.
So you have something to reflect on in the morning.
Because otherwise, you won't be able to get out of bed. Then, you spend the day searching for God. There's nothing more wonderful than that.
There's nothing more wonderful.
Then, you'll see it in an act of profound kindness, of integrity.
In a moment of extraordinary beauty,
you'll start collecting them. Iona. Tomorrow morning, you'll get up thinking about this.
You'll begin to become a seeker of God.
Because otherwise, you won't get up.
Friends, this is so good. So good. There was a man in Brasilia, a businessman, who told a true story that I found very beautiful. That must have solved his problem with mornings.
He was in a big rush in traffic. It was Christmas time.
I don't know if you've heard this story. It's quite well known. He parked, and a boy came up with a little shoebox asking for a donation.
During Christmas, that happens a lot, doesn't it?
And inside the shoebox was a mango he had picked up from the ground.
In a hurry, a stressed-out businessman, he turned to the boy and said, I don't have anything to give you. In fact, I don't even have money to eat myself.
The boy, a child of about 10 years old, looked at him wide-eyed and said,
No, sir, you're not going to go without eating. Here, take this mango. I'm hungry too, but I'll find another one.
I won't let you go without something to eat. He was being sincere. He wasn't putting on an act. He took the mango from his shoebox and handed it to the man, saying, Take this.
I'm hungry too, but I'll find another one. I won't let you go hungry.
The man had to accept the mango because of the boy's honesty. He drove a few meters, then stopped the car to cry, and it changed his life. What was it that this boy did?
He gave this person an incredible opportunity to see God, didn't he? Didn't he? It changed his life. He said, that boy was a harsh judge. What he did to me was almost violent. It turned my life upside down. That young man surely has the ability to see God every morning. Seek out things like this. Seek the reflection of God in human beings, in life. Thinking about this in the morning restores your faith in humanity, restores your faith in yourself. It gets you out of bed with a sense of quality in your day, in your time, in your awareness, that you can't imagine to bring down a consciousness that has risen to that level. Well, it would take a lot of very heavy interference, because it already begins at an elevated level. It starts by seeing the world from an elevated perspective. So do this in the morning and at night as well, because it will determine the quality of your sleep. A well-rested night is a night in which you knew how to guide where your waking consciousness was vibrating. You knew how to enter sleep well. Beginnings and endings. Dawn and dusk. So, first of all, what I mentioned, pay attention to music, reading, mental form, what you choose to think about. This is very important. Dawn and dusk, my friends, have a very interesting characteristic: contrast. And contrast is a source of consciousness. It is the contrast between light and darkness. There is an Eastern theory called the theory of impact, which says that consciousness is born from contrast. If you have a surface that is red and blue, you only perceive the red because it ends and the blue begins. Isn't that right? If the entire universe were red, you wouldn't even notice it. If you hear a musical note, you only perceive that note because at some point it stops. If it played continuously, you wouldn't notice it. It is the contrast between sound and silence. It is the contrast between what is had and what is lost. The contrast between one color and another. It is contrast that generates consciousness. Many ancient peoples spoke of the moment of contrast between light and shadow as an extremely beautiful moment. And the union of beauties holds a kind of magical power, an overused word, but a real one in human consciousness. Something beautiful is already powerful. A sunset, combined with your favorite music and a paragraph from a text that moves you the most. Look, it's overwhelming. Two or more beauties together, simultaneously, amplify consciousness. It does this because human consciousness is very sensitive to beauty. We come from a world where beauty reigned. It recognizes itself. When you bring together two or three beautiful things at the same time, that's why it's wonderful to pause and write in a journal, to reflect either at sunrise or sunset. It's the perfect moment, because it's a moment that is, in itself, very beautiful. Add two or three more beautiful things to it, and that's it. It becomes so easy. You're setting up a meeting with your soul in that moment. Keeping a journal helps you reflect and gather the important things from your day. The battles you won, the ones you lost, and the ones you never fought. The ones you dodged. Without passing judgment, just recounting and crafting a strategy for the next day. That moment is incredibly inviting. A girl in love invites her boyfriend over to her house. She plays the music he likes, cooks the food he enjoys, sets the mood. You're inviting your soul to a meeting, set the mood. Call upon beautiful things, they recognize each other. It becomes so much easier. Another very important point. The gathering of Daikar. Once again, the Sufi school, which we've already spoken about, that represented the essence of Islam. They used to say beauty and ugliness, beauty and coarseness cannot coexist in the same space. So when you want to control your mind to avoid dwelling on aggressive thoughts, that end up hurting yourself, to avoid getting stuck in repetitive thoughts, bring in something truly beautiful. Only you know what that is. It could be an image, a phrase, or a poem, a passage from a melody. And keep repeating it mentally throughout the entire day. Pray and watch unceasingly, says the Christian tradition. Isn't that right? Hit play on that in your mind and let it run in the background. Let's say the thing you cherish is the image of St. Francis of Assisi. Just to take a Christian example, it's unlikely that you'll place the image of St. Francis of Assisi in your mind. next to a harsh criticism of someone. You'd feel ashamed. No, I can't have a thought like that in front of St. Francis. It just doesn't work. And since you can't remove him, the harsh thought will have to go. You feel ashamed to do certain things in his presence. His presence, symbolically, represents the presence of your divine self, your true self. He is there symbolically representing something sacred that exists within us. The diker was, you don't share it with anyone. You take what is most sacred to you and press play. Let it play in your mind. Notice you need to learn how your mind works. You walk down the street, downtown, and a terrible song is playing. Just a hypothetical example. I'm not saying this actually happens. You stop at a traffic light and that awful song is playing. Has it never happened that, an hour later, that song is still playing in your mind? The mind is like a very modern sound system. You hit play, and it keeps repeating sometimes for several days. You need to observe, see what's playing in your mind, remove what you don't want, and choose what you do. Faced with such a melody, my mind is uplifted. I'll hit play and let it run. A melody with inspiring lyrics. Sometimes just the melody alone lifts me up. Music has a fantastic effect. Certain melodies seem to have something divine hovering above them. They create a mental atmosphere all on their own. Learn to hit play in your mind. When you drift off the station, go back and tune in again. The background of our mind works in a somewhat mechanical way. You put something on to play in there, and then you don't take it out. Today I'm going to put on something different so I don't get bored. But choose it consciously. And if, out of distraction, you let something else in, remove it. Learn to set a noble background in your mind. Music is vibration, and it creates a tendency for you to tune into that vibration, whether elevated or coarse. It can be a song with lyrics, or simply an orchestral melody, whatever you prefer. Set a background. When you feel inclined toward negative thoughts, place a phrase or an image in your mind. Someone you deeply respect and admire, passing through your mental landscape. The person you admire sweeps through everything, cleansing it all. Through their purity, they compel all that is impure to leave. Learn to invoke that. It's fascinating, it's like a cleansing. That presence passes through and purifies everything. Ah, it's coming back. Let it pass through again. Discipline is doing what's necessary to keep your consciousness elevated. Learn to program your mind, create a perfect setting for noble things. It makes life so much easier. Truly, that sleepless night, if you don't take control, you'll spend the whole night thinking nonsense. You can go through a sleepless night without having a single negative thought. Let those things run only positive things. It can be done. It's a mechanism. I call it a mechanism because there really is a certain mechanical aspect to it. It can be done. You can go ahead. A noble, meaningful thought 3 times a day. It's a really good little tip. Associated with one of your habits, breakfast, dinner, lunch. I don't put a single bite of food in my mouth before repeating a maxim 3 times. Mentally, quickly, just for yourself. I must be less selfish. I must commit more to humanity. I love kindness, justice, and fraternity. Something that, in that moment, is most important to you. Here is a tip. Make it a commitment, because commitment pulls us forward. Just between us, little secrets from Manaus. In the end, the great human mystery is what you love and the intensity with which you love it. Notice something. The duality of love is not hate. Hate is opposed to passion. The duality of love is selfishness. If you want to stop being selfish, commit to loving more and loving better. Noble, just, and good things. Commit yourself in such a way that your conscience holds you accountable. It becomes a debt. Mentally, 3 times a day, I'll repeat this. I commit to being less selfish. I commit to being more patient. Identify what is most urgent for you right now. Commitment is like a rope we hold onto as we climb upward. It keeps us from falling. That's why I find it so troubling that our society fears commitment.
because it is one of the tools for rescuing the human being.
It is a gift. Commit yourself to noble things. Don't tell anyone, just you. Take advantage of 3 meaningful moments in your day and create a maxim like this.
To strengthen your inner bonds, this helps a lot.
Learn to like and to reject.
Plato said that this is the formation of character, learning to love what is good and reject what is bad. Learn to feel repulsed by mental patterns of envy, of vulgar criticism,
Of constantly looking for flaws in everything and everyone, including in the events of life. Learn to reject that, to see it as vulgar.
You know that song you hear playing on the street and you instantly reject it because you find it vulgar?
Learn to feel disgust, revulsion toward that kind of mental pattern.
See it as something that pollutes you, that profanes you. Understand that there are certain things you are too dignified to deserve.
When those kinds of thoughts cross your mind, yuck, that's not mine.
This is a matter of training your taste, to take it as something that wounds you to the point that you even feel a certain pain. That's good. Pain helps build awareness.
When something like that crosses my mind, I feel a certain pain. It hurts me.
It's sharp. I don't deserve that. I deserve respect.
Respect comes from respicerito, know how to see.
To look at oneself twice and reflect, to recognize I'm human. I do not deserve this. If I don't respect myself, I won't respect anyone else, and no one will respect me. Inner life is the source of respect.
I reject envy, greed, laziness, and gossip.
To see these things and automatically reject them. This too is a form of conditioning. It's the programming, the software, that you gradually install in your mind, so that it helps you become more human. The mind is a machine, a program. At its core, one of the most brilliant things that human beings use wasn't created, it was copied. Nothing as high-tech as the human mind has ever been invented. And it must be programmed wisely. There are ways to program it. You may proceed. To be worthy of the human condition is a privilege. From time to time, remember this: unhuman. That is no small thing. It is a phenomenal effort of nature
To create a being with so many possibilities. Love, generosity, fraternity, greatness of soul. This is something extraordinary. I must be worthy of this gift that has been given to me.
From time to time, remember what nature expects from you. A great deal. It has given you an incredible potential.
Learn to admire and to love the human condition. This is a fundamental step toward loving and committing yourself to humanity.
A little treasure box.
I usually call it a spiritual first aid kit. You know that moment when you acted fraternally without wanting anyone to notice.
Without seeking recognition, without expecting anything in return. Put that moment inside your little box. Don't forget it. From time to time, you need to go back and look at it to remember who you are by nature.
That moment when I was generous without wanting anything in return, simply because I felt pain.
I felt the suffering and pain of another resonating within my own heart. It was genuine.
I didn't do it for show. This moment is precious. Write it down so you won't forget. When life tries to tell you that you are not that, go back, read it all again, take a look.
Keep the jewels of your life inside that little box.
Khalil Gibran, when he speaks about dwellings in the book The Prophet,
he says, "Why do you lock your house so tightly? What do you have of value inside?"
Do you have kindness, generosity, greatness of soul? If you don't have any of that, then you have nothing of value.
So why do you lock your house?
We need to keep those jewels. Well protected, ideally written down, so we don't forget. We must remember who we are. From time to time, go back there so you don't start to doubt.
I'm this size, and I won't let anyone diminish me.
I won't make concessions. I won't bargain.
I'm this size. I must not forget who I am.
This is your first aid kit, an actual, physical one.
Physical. Want to keep a journal? Keep a journal, that's good too.
Don't lose the jewels of your life, the moments when you were truly human.
Because that will keep you from doubting. Whoever has been up there will always find their way back. You'll remember that flight.
and you'll take flight again. You can return. You've been there once. Good films and books followed by reflection, that's important too. I know that.
Nowadays, reading is no longer as sought after. It's not such a common habit anymore.
But it's very important that we learn to choose wisely. In that sense, I'm even a bit radical. I don't say read more, I say read better. Because depending on what you read, it might be better not to read at all. Because the mind can be polluted, just as we said, just like the body. Toxic food? Fasting is better. So, seek out books that are inspiring, drawn from the traditions of humanity. Books that are truly enriching. Just a few. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. Someone once asked Confucius, if you could live 50 more years, what would you do? He said, I would read the I Ching 50 more times. Or eat king. He wouldn't go for the top 10 list from Beijing magazine. Understand that sometimes crude, vulgar, aggressive, or confusing content can pollute. It's not about reading a lot, it's about reading the right things. Truly inspiring works that elevate your consciousness. That can serve as lasting invitations to inner elevation. Good films too, careful. There's nothing on, they'll just watch whatever's available. Don't do it. It's mental pollution that takes a long time to cleanse. There are many great films, and nowadays you can find them everywhere. Pick a list of classics. And above all, if you've watched something meaningful is not just entertainment. Engage in a dialogue. If you don't have someone to talk to, have a dialogue with yourself. Reflect on the ideas that the film conveyed. Do I truly believe in them? What were they trying to tell me? Is it what's on the surface, or is there deeper unsaid? In what way do these things help me grow? How can this help me become a better human being? Extract the juice from the orange, don't just drag around the peels. Develop the habit of analyzing the things that pass through your life. Sometimes I want to stand at the movie theater exit and ask people, did you think about the idea? Did you reflect on the other point? Because sometimes there are films, very rare ones, but truly exceptional. And people walk out without thinking about anything. That breaks my heart. Les Miserables seen the musical? People, what was that? It would have been worth it for me to set up a booth at the theater entrance. To ask people some fundamental questions, hand out a questionnaire. Think about this, that, something else. How can someone not reflect on a film like that? There are insights in it powerful enough to change our lives. Don't let things simply pass you by. A person doesn't live by what they eat. A person lives by what they assimilate. Our founder, Professor Jorge Angel Libraga, used to say that, of all that you eat, much of it is discarded. What the body assimilates, that's what gives you life. Of all the things that pass through you, if you don't assimilate them, nothing remains. It doesn't give you life on any level. Develop the habit of reflection. If you have someone to engage in dialogue with, that person is a gift. They are a true friend, and lose sight of that. If you don't have someone, then have a dialogue with yourself. In fact, one doesn't exclude the other. Engage in inner dialogue, reflect on the things that pass through you. The story of Hanumanto conclude. This is our final slide. It is a very beautiful story from a very ancient classic. Consider that for India, this book, the Ramayana, holds the same place for the Hindu people as, for example, the Bible does for Christians, or the Torah does for Jews. It is a sacred book, and it is a deeply symbolic story. I won't tell the whole story, as it is vast, it's a great poem. But at a certain point, there was a monkey, who was Hanuman, who served a divine being from the Indian tradition, Rama. He served him throughout his entire journey in the world. At a certain point, Rama was going to return to the heavens because he was, in fact, the god Vishnu. And as he was about to return to the heavens, he decided to reward this animal, who was more like a human than an animal, was very intelligent, and had been helpful to him throughout his entire journey. Then he takes a golden bracelet and gives it to Hanuman, saying, "Look, this is a token of everything you've done for me." At that moment, Hanuman really acted like a monkey. He took the bracelet, sniffed it, examined it from every angle, and broke it. He said, "This is useless, Rama." "What do you mean it's useless? It's a solid gold bracelet." "It's useless nowhere on it is your name written." Then one of Rama's generals turns to Hanuman and says, "Are you perhaps going crazy, monkey? That was a solid gold bracelet, and you threw it away just because Rama's name isn't on it? Then throw away your own body, because nowhere on it is Rama's name written." Then Hanuman, the monkey, with his claws tears open his chest and reveals that inside his chest, in every bone, in every muscle, in every vertebra, it was written Rama, 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 Rama. There wasn't a single part of his body where the name of God wasn't written. It was engraved within him in every piece of his body. That was something so powerful that even today I get emotional when I tell it. When I read the book for the first time, I said, if only one day I could be capable of writing the name of God in every one of my vertebrae. How does one go about writing that? Not on the vertebrae of this body, because this isn't truly who we are. Nothing that is truly yours can ever be taken away from you. This here will be taken from us at some point. Within us lies our essence, that which we truly are. To engrave within it something noble, just, dignified, and divine. Deeply. In such a way that it becomes imprinted. Our essence. Our inner name. That is what it means to live. To deeply open the layers of our superficiality and go within to engrave something sacred. To make a difference, to be a force that adds value. To ensure that nature is rewarded for the act of having brought us into the world. This is a task perhaps the most important of all. It is the construction of the self. It is inner life. What I've given you are small pieces of advice. You can create others yourselves. Not only can you, but you should. It is possible to do it. You can find your own way. Look, if I put this on my bedroom wall, it inspires me. If I do this, you can and you should do it. There are millions of possibilities. What matters is to take this as a fundamental task in life. These are just small suggestions of things I practice or have practiced. It's important that you find your own way. Start by copying these if you need to, and then gradually find your own way, but do it. Don't forget, we came here to be human. And the process of building ourselves is called inner life. Well, that's basically what I had to share with you. Our time is a bit limited.
Can we open it up for questions, please?
Think about how your words affect others. The way you speak, your tone, and the words you choose can deeply influence people's feelings and actions. It's crucial to be aware of this impact in different situations.
And then I started thinking, indeed, we're living in a time when speaking the truth is often taken as an offense by people.
Many times, you say something you believe is necessary, but people take offense. What should we do in the face of this resentment, this sensitivity people have? Is it better to stay silent or to do what you believe is right?
Lucia Helena, neither too much to the sea, nor too much to the land, neither remain silent, nor say whatever we feel like saying. I was talking about reflecting on films. Have you seen The King's Speech? Who has seen it? There's a scene in the movie where the speech therapist, who was actually teaching him, said some things to the young man who was going to be king, and he reacted with offense, cursing and shouting. I don't know if you remember that, when they reconciled. He apologized to the young man and said, I didn't know how to say it in a way that you could hear. Rama said in the book Ramayana, the art of a leader is to not say a word more or less than what each person can hear at each moment. Of course, we would all like to see someone at the top of the staircase, but you don't pull them all the way up at once. You help them to the next step. If we speak and the person feels offended, it means that we went a little past the first step. We pulled them to the third. They scraped their knees. Justice is doing what is ours to do in the right measure at the right time. To give each person what corresponds to them according to their actions, according to their moment. Justice is delicate. It knows how to find the right intensity, the right amount, the right time, and it is patient, infinitely patient. So if I can only say half a word, I say half a word. Tomorrow, the other half. If we want to help people, we must equip ourselves with infinite patience. We cannot be in a hurry. And we must understand what each person is able to hear at any given moment. Of course, truths must be spoken, but in a way that they can be constructive. You've probably heard the story of the king who had a dream, and he calls for a counselor. He tells the dream, and the counselor says, "Oh, what a tragedy, Your Majesty. What do you mean? What happened?" This dream means that you will witness the death of all your relatives. The king becomes furious. Guards, arrest this man. How dare he say such a thing to me? What a horrible thing. Give this man 10 lashes. Then he calls another counselor and tells him the same dream. The counselor says, "Your Majesty, what a good omen. What a wonderful dream." Really? What is the dream saying? This dream means that you will live longer than all your relatives. How wonderful. Is that so? Guards, give this man 10 gold coins. What marvelous news. The other counselor, who had received 10 lashes, was outside and heard everything. And he waited for the second one and said, "Hold on a second, man, you're a trickster. I got 10 lashes and you got 10 gold coins. You said the same thing I did." "No, wait a minute, you didn't understand. The truth is a precious stone. And like a precious stone, it is very noble of you to want to give it to someone. But it's one thing to place the precious stone inside a little box. Wrap it in gift paper, tie it with a ribbon, add a card, and then give it. It's something else to throw it in someone's face. Even if it's precious, it's still a blow. Even if it's precious, it's still a blow. The truth must be given, but you have to know how to give it. Otherwise, it becomes aggressive. In other words, anyone who wants to commit themselves to humanity must be equipped with great patience, great diplomacy, a strong sense of justice, and know how to deliver the truth. To grow in order to do that, to find the best ways. The best thing we can do for those we love is to grow as human beings. Diplomacy and patience are among the things we need to cultivate. Anything else, everyone? Yes?
Could you say a bit more about the word integrity?
Yes, integrity is very similar to the word individuality. A person of integrity, an individual, is someone who does not divide themselves. A person of integrity is someone who, as I was telling you, has a sense of purpose in life that leads them toward the curtain, but at a certain moment walks toward the fire extinguisher instead. I became divided. My consciousness wanted to go one way, and my body went another. I lost my indivisibility, my integrity. Deep down, a person who lacks integrity is betraying themselves. Anyone else suffers only as a consequence, as a side effect. It is the person who allowed a gap, an inconsistency, to form between their identity and their actions. A lack of integrity, at its core, is an inconsistency. An inconsistency wounds us, above all, ourselves. Any person with whom you are not fully honest or consistent, they can count on others. They don't necessarily need you. But we cannot stop counting on ourselves. I cannot give up on myself. And every time I lack integrity, I begin to lose self-confidence. You know that mental programming?
When you say, "I'm going to do this," and your conscience replies, "Oh, here you go again with that same old talk."
You've said it 1,000 times and never do anything, just stop. It's hard to reverse that. Regaining belief in yourself is not easy. So this is the greatest loss that comes from a lack of integrity, from being divided, from being fragmented. Losing trust in oneself. The human being, the human psyche, is something very delicate. My friends, one must learn how to handle it. Like someone raising a child, there are certain losses that, sometimes, we can no longer undo. Like no longer trusting yourself. All right? Anything else? Last question, not because of me. If it were up to me, I'd stay here all night, but we have a deadline to return this space. All right?
Go ahead.
I was following your line of reasoning regarding the creation of values. You said that the creation of value is something internal. The person creates that value, but there's the influence of society, religions, and parents. So how can we deal with these influences? We can certainly raise a child, but what is the value of a child, for example?
We work with children. Perhaps you've already heard about this. My own daughter studied philosophy from the age of 4. We teach philosophy to children. It's very interesting because if you take 2 children and you say to one of them, "Go hit that little boy over there," and she replies, "No, ma'am, I can't. He's smaller than me. That's not fair." Sometimes the other one, his sibling from the same environment,
Under the same influences, goes and hits him.
in other words, it seems there is a certain level of maturity, a certain oldness of the soul, which is attained individually. That allows some to rise above their environment, while others cannot. Because there are people who are born into terrible environments, and they turn things around. They are the ones who change the environment instead of being changed by it. Haven't there been people like that? Take Giordano Bruno in the Middle Ages, or Socrates in antiquity. I like to talk about a Brazilian named Machado de Assis. He was born on a hill, in a favela, the grandson of slaves, orphaned by both father and mother. And he became one of the greatest intellectuals of the Portuguese language. The environment didn't shape him, shaped the environment, and made history. A person can be a product of themselves and a producer of their environment. It depends on the maturity one possesses. And that maturity is something we shape from within. It is our responsibility, came here to build ourselves. Understand this. Nature doesn't need us to build spaceships. It has comets flying in every direction. It doesn't need us to build ships that travel at the speed of light. It already created light. What nature needs is for us to build human beings, starting with ourselves. That is something it cannot do for us, because free will exists. And the more mature we are, the more refined this inner construction becomes.
The more a person becomes the creator of their own being.
And they can change the world. Haven't there already been people who did that? If even one person has done it, that means the possibility exists within us. If one person was capable of transforming their environment, it means we all can. Because we all share the same human condition. This potential exists within each of us. There is a classic text, also from India, called the Bhagavad Gita,
In which a hero overcame all his enemies.
who symbolically represented his own flaws. His name was Arjuna. And at a certain point, it says, whenever you feel downcast, discouraged by adversity, look to the horizon and see Arjuna, mounted on his war horse, victorious atop the mountain of his enemies. I think that phrase is incredible. It means, if he overcame, so can you. Don't forget that. That potential exists within you. So we are not a blank canvas. We'll accumulate experiences that drive us forward, Iona. And from them, we rise as if climbing the steps of a staircase. And at a certain point, we can turn the game around. Instead of being products of our environment, we become creators. There have been those who achieved this, and that cannot be denied. This lies within the human condition. Even children are not all exactly the same. We must teach children to assert themselves over their environment. Well, everyone, we can't take many more questions. Our time has truly run out. I'd like to remind those who are not yet familiar that the new Acropolis School of Philosophy here in Manaus is open, and people at the entrance giving information.
Watching a lecture on YouTube is not the same thing
as meeting a philosophy teacher in person. Those who have the opportunity to attend an in-person class, do you know what a homeopath does? We walk into the homeopath's office. I'm there with the flu, and you're there with the flu. You'll leave with one medication, and he'll leave with another, because you are one human being and him another. The presence of a human being shapes the teachings to what you personally need to hear. It's not the same as watching on YouTube. I love that you watch YouTube. I'm truly happy about that. But if you have the opportunity to take the course, it's a much greater opportunity. I invite you to come and get to know the school here in Manaus. It's a wonderful opportunity. And of course, to also be on YouTube, because it has reached thousands of people. It has been helpful to many. Just go on YouTube, type in New Acropolis, and you'll find a lot of content. If you share it, you help spread our work. We are all volunteers. We do this in the same spirit in which we receive it. With generosity, with the desire to share. And I hope I can count on you for that as well. Thank you very much, and good night.